Good morning, Year 6. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're well. So today we're going to be learning about kilometres and miles and looking at the relationship between kilometres and miles. So let's get started. Writing your date and your learning intention. Excellent. So in order to be successful in today's lesson, you need to make sure you already know which units of measure are metric units. That's what we have been learning so far. And you should be able to divide by 10. You should be able to halve and double numbers mentally most of the time. Okay? And if you're still unsure with any of those, then you can go over to Khan Academy, and there are lots of videos there to help you and support you with each of those. For today's lesson, you will need a pencil, paper, 3-minute timer. You'll need the worksheet converting miles and kilometres, which was emailed to you this morning. If you did not receive that email, you can go onto the Grange Primary School website, Online Learning Year 6, and you'll find it there. And you'll also need a positive attitude ready to learn. Check. So, today we're going to be exploring the relationship between kilometres and miles and converting between the two. So today we're going to be looking at different strategies we can use to quickly divide 5 and 8, as those are our magic numbers today. What strategies can you think of for dividing by 5? Excellent. You might have thought of some of the strategies that we have done in school, such as the bus stop method or the formal written method for division. And that is a great method for dividing by 5. But if you've got lots of steps in a problem, then you don't want to waste too much time doing the written method when you're going to have to do a written method for some of the other steps. So if we can work out a way to divide by 5 quickly, then that speeds up the process. So some of the other ways that we can use are to divide the number by 10 and then double the answer. So for example, if I had 400, I could divide that by 10, which would give me 40. And then if I double the 40, I get 80. So 400 divided by 5 is 80. And then we can use the inverse to check our answers. So 80 times 5. 8 times 5 is 40. So 80 times 5 is 400. Now I'd like you to have a go at using this strategy to divide these numbers by 5. Pause the video here, set your 3-minute timer, and go! Excellent. How well did you do? Well, 300 divided by 5. 300 divided by 10 is 30, so if we double the 30, we get 60. 105 divided by 5. Well, 105 divided by 10 is 10.5. And if we double 10.5, we get 21. 180 divided by 5 is 36. 450 divided by 5 is 90. 80 divided by 5 is 16. 355 divided by 5 is 71. 125 divided by 5 is 25. And for the last one, 122 divided by 5. Well, 122 divided by 10 is 12.2. So to double 12.2, we double the 12, which is 24, then double the 0.2, which is 0.4. So we get 24.4. Well done if you managed to get those. Now we're going to think of a strategy that we can use to help us divide by 8. One way is to halve the number, then halve it again, then halve it again. So you'll remember when we talked about finding, say, a quarter of an amount, we've always said maybe one way is to halve it and halve it again. Well, dividing by 8 is the same as finding an eighth. So therefore, you need to halve it again, and then halve it again. And you can use this strategy to divide the following numbers. But before we go on to that, let's practice some together. So say we wanted to divide 176 by 8. Well, we could halve 176. Half of 176 is 88. And then half of 88 is 44. And then half of 44 is 22. So that's just one way that we could use to help us find an eighth of a number, or to divide by 8. Now, using our strategy today, I would like you to divide the following numbers by 8. Pause the video here, set your timer to 3 minutes, and go. Excellent, let's go through the answers. 200 divided by 8 is 25. So let's go through it, let's halve it. Half of 200 is 100. Half of 100 is 50, and half of 50 is 25. 128 divided by 8. Half of 128, well, half the 12. If you break that number up, half of the 1 and 2 makes 12. So half of 12 is 60, and half of 8 is 4, so 64. Then half of 64, half of 6 is 3, half of 4 is 2, makes 32. And then half of 32 is 16. So always look for the patterns in the numbers that you can break it down a lot easier. 120 divided by 8 is 15. 288 divided by 8 is 36. So again, you can break that down really easily. Half the 2 and half the 88, you get 144, and then half that again. 88 divided by 8, 320 divided by 8 is 40, 168 divided by 8 is 21, and 100 divided by 8 is 12.5. So well done if you managed to get those. If you didn't, then before we go on to the next part of the lesson, maybe just go over those again. So now, here's your challenge. Divide these numbers as quickly as you can. 3-minute timer on, go. And here's our answers. 250 divided by 5 is 50. 432 divided by 8 is 54. And so on and so forth. Well done if you managed to do those. In metric measure, what are some of the units of measure that we use for length or distance? So thinking back to our lessons that we've already done, how do we measure distance or length in metric measure? Well, we could use kilometres, centimetres, millimetres, or metres. Today, we're going to be focusing on converting metric measure into imperial measure. So, a kilometre is about 1,200. A kilometre is about 1,000 meters. Now, in terms of distance, that's the distance between, say, McDonald's at Shaftesbury Circle up to West Harrow Park. Okay, so that is just over a kilometre to get from McDonald's to West Harrow Park. Today we're going to be looking at converting kilometres into miles. But how long is a mile? Well, if you think about McDonald's being our starting point, I know it's something you all will recognise. From McDonald's all the way to North Harrow Station is just over a mile. Okay, so it's 1.1 miles. So which is greater, a kilometre or a mile? Yeah, that's right, it's a mile, because the distance to North Harrow Station is further than the distance to West Harrow Park. Why do we need to know this? Well, in the UK, we mostly use miles to measure long distances, and you can see that if you've ever driven down the motorway with an adult. However, in Europe, distances are measured in kilometres. We need to be able to use both units of measurement, and you might have a look next time you're in your grown-up's car. Ask them if you can just have a look at their dashboard, and if you have a look, you'll see that even where they measure how fast they're going, it also tells them how fast they're going, the distance that they're covering, in kilometres as well. So we need to be able to use both units of measure. Which do you think is farther, a mile or a kilometre? That's right, a mile is further, and we discussed that in the last slide. 5 miles is equal to 8 kilometres. In fact, it's not equal to. I want you to have a think about what that symbol might mean. It looks similar to an equal symbol, doesn't it? But it actually means it's approximately equal to. Okay, so whenever you see those wavy equal signs, it means it's approximately equal to. So it might be a good idea in your books now to write that information down. 5 miles, and then write down that approximately equal symbol to 8 kilometres. We're going to have a go today at converting miles to kilometres. And in order to do that, we have to use this formula. Miles, so the number of miles, divided by 5 and then times by 8 gives us the measurement, the distance in kilometres. So you divide the miles measurement by 5, multiplied by 8. So say for example we were trying to convert 85 miles into kilometres. We would do 85 divided by 5. Remember those skills that we learned at the start of the lesson? You can divide it by 10 and double it. Dividing it by 10 would give us 8.5, and when we double it, we get 17. Then 8 times 17, which equals 136, and we can use our written method to help us solve that. Which of these gives the correct information? If I wanted to convert from miles to kilometres, which one would I need to do? Would I divide the miles measurement by 8 and then multiply by 5? Would I divide the miles measurement by 8 then multiply by 8? Would I divide the miles measurement by 5 then multiply by 8? Would I divide the miles measurement by 5 then multiply by 5? Which one is correct? Yeah, our key numbers today are 5 and 8. If we're going to be converting from miles to kilometres, we need to divide the measurements by 5 and multiply by 8. So it should have been this one. So to convert from miles to kilometres, we know which method we need to use. We're going to have a go at converting these measurements from miles to kilometres, remembering that we need to divide the number of miles by 5, then multiply by 8. Divide by 5 times by 8. The first one has been done for you. 100 divided by 5 is 20, and 20 times 8 is 160. Now I'd like you to pause the video and complete the rest of the table. Excellent, let's go through our answers. So 75 divided by 5 is 15. 15 times 8 equals 120. So 75 miles is equivalent to 120 kilometres. 135 miles divided by 5 is 27. If we divide 135 divided by 10, we get 13.5. And 13.5 doubled is 27. So double the 13 and then double the 0.5 and then put that together. 27 times 8 equals 216. So we get 216 kilometres. 200 miles divided by 5 is 40. So 200 divided by 10 is 20, and double 20 we get 40. 40 times 8 is 320. And to work that one out quickly, we can just ignore the 0 in 40. 4 times 8 is 32. And remember to put our 0 back on. 95 divided by 5. Well, 95 divided by 10 is 9.5. So 95 divided by 5 is 19. 19 times 8, 152. Well done if you managed to get those. Remember, you'll probably need to use lots of written methods for this, and that's perfectly fine. So when you have a distance which isn't a multiple of 5, your answer will be a decimal number. So 89 divided by 5. We know 89 is not a multiple of 5 because it doesn't end in 5 or 0. So 89 divided by 10 is 8.9. And if we double 8.9, we get 17.8. Now 17.8 times 8 equals 142.4. So our answer, 89 miles, is approximately equal to 142.4 kilometres. Now, in order to be able to do that quite quickly, we need to make sure that we remember how to multiply a whole number by a decimal number. If you have a look on screen, I've shown a little example of how we do that. So if you look at 2.8 times 7, for example, you would multiply the 8 times 7, which gives us 56, write our 6 at the bottom and carry our 5 over to the next column. 2 times 7 is 14, and 14 plus 5 is 19. So our answer is 196, but we're not finished yet. We need to look at where the decimal is, and we need to make sure we put that same decimal in our answer by following the decimal down to our answer. Then you'll see we end up with our answer 19.6. If you're not quite confident with that, then I should have said this at the beginning, but you need to also maybe just go over some lessons, just practicing how to multiply decimals and whole numbers. Okay? I'd like you to now have a go at converting these distances from miles to kilometres. So 36 miles. What would you need to do? Well, you know you need to divide by 5 and multiply by 8. We know that none of these answers are going to be whole numbers because none of these numbers are multiples of 5. Pause the video here. Excellent. Let's go through our answers. 36 divided by 5 is 7.2, and 7.2 times 8 is 57.6. 122 divided by 5, 24.4. 24.4 times 8 is 195.2 kilometres. 74 divided by 5 is 14.8, and 14.8 times 8 is 118.4 kilometres. Well done if you managed to get those. Now I know there's a lot of steps involved in converting between miles and kilometres, so if you need to replay the video at all and just listen to it a few times, then that's one of the beautiful things about online learning, is that you can just rewind it as many times as you need to go over it. Okay, so slow it down if you need to, that's fine. So we've been looking at how to convert from miles to kilometres, but what if we wanted to convert kilometres to miles? We have to use the same. If we use the same method, 8 kilometres is approximately equal to 5 miles. What would we need to do? Pause the video here and have a think. Excellent. First, you would divide by 8, then multiply by 5. And it's the opposite or the inverse of what we've been doing to convert from miles to kilometres. So 88 kilometres divided by 8 gives us 11. And 11 times 5 equals 55. So 88 kilometres is approximately equal to 55 miles. Now it's your turn. Convert these distances from kilometres to miles. Remember, the key today is to divide by 8, then multiply by 5. Divide by 8, then multiply by 5. Pause the video here. Excellent. 96 divided by 8, we should all know that, is 12. And 12 times 5 is 60. So 96 kilometres is approximately equal to 60 miles. 208 kilometres divided by 8 gives us 26. So you would have used the short division method, the bus stop method, to help you work that out. Or you might have used our mental method that we've been learning today, which is to halve it again, and halve it again. But either one of those are perfectly fine, whichever one you feel most comfortable with. 26 times 5 is 130. And 168 divided by 8 equals 21. 21 times 5 equals 105. Well done. Now these distances are not multiples of 8. The first conversion has been completed. Complete the other conversions. So you can see we've got 84 divided by 8. Now if we half 84, we get 42. And if we halve 42, we get 21. And if we halve 21, we get 10.5. 10.5 times 5 equals 52.5. Remember, you can use the bus stop method, the short division method if you prefer. If you can do it mentally, even better. Fantastic. Pause the video here whilst you complete the grid. Excellent. Here's our answers. Now, Patrick is taking part in a cycling race. Here are the distances of the first 5 stages of the race. So, stage 1, you need to cover 122 miles. Stage 2, 55 kilometres. Stage 3, 104 miles. Stage 4, 197 kilometres. And stage 5, 94 miles. Do the first 5 stages cover more than 800 kilometres? It's very difficult to compare distances when it's using different units of measure. So what's the first thing we need to do? Excellent. We need to convert them all to make sure that they're using the same unit of measure. Here is one way you could answer this question. You could add together the miles measurements. 122 miles plus 104 plus 94 equals 320. Then convert the miles to kilometres. 320 miles is approximately equal to 512 kilometres. Then add this to the kilometres measurements. 512 plus 55 plus 197, which equals 764 kilometres. Then compare this to 800 kilometres. Is it more than 800 kilometres? No. The first 5 stages cover less than 800 kilometres. Can you think of any other ways that this problem could be solved? If you could think of any other ways, then we'd love to see the ideas that you've come up with. Please email us over the other ways that you managed to solve the problem. Here are the distances of the last 5 stages of the race. Do the last 5 stages cover more than 800 kilometres? Now it's your turn. Have a go. Pause the video here whilst you work it out. Remember, if you're not sure, you can always rewind the video to make sure that you're 100% sure with how you need to get from miles to kilometres. So, here's our answer. 79 miles plus 78 miles plus 93 miles equals 250. 250 miles is approximately equal to 400 kilometres. 400 kilometres plus 160 plus 242 equals 802. So yes, the last 5 stages cover more than 800 kilometres. Now it's your turn. You would have received this worksheet in an email this morning, or as I said, you can go to the Grange Primary School website. Choose your level of difficulty. I'd suggest, because it's something that's quite new, it's just been introduced to you, it might be a good idea to just do the level 1. But if it's something that maybe you've covered before at home or just for fun, then maybe you want to start with one of the more difficult ones. So the number of stars at the top of each sheet indicates the level of difficulty, 1 star being the easiest and 3 stars being the most difficult. Once you've completed that, don't forget. So for those of you who need maybe a bit more challenge, here is a distance table where the distances are given in miles. So this isn't for everyone, this is just for some of you. Use the conversion information to say approximately how many kilometres it is between these cities. And these distances are not all geographically accurate, so they're not exactly what they are in real life. Have a look at this table. You remember last week we looked at how to read a table. And this table shows us the distances between different cities. Before we start, quick question. Why do you think some of the boxes have been blanked out? Why are some of the boxes pink? Well, to get from Portsmouth to Portsmouth, there is no distance there. You're already in Portsmouth. So therefore you can see we don't need any distance. There's no distance going to be shown in those boxes. And the same from Southampton to Southampton, and Sheffield to Sheffield, and so on and so forth. Those boxes have been blanked out because we're already in that place. Now, what I'd like you to do is have a go at looking at the distance from Nottingham to Portsmouth. So find Nottingham and Portsmouth and look at the distance which is shown in miles and convert that to kilometres. Then do the same with Southampton to Sheffield and Portsmouth to Oxford, remembering that to convert from miles to kilometres you need to divide the number of miles by 5, then multiply by 8. Pause the video here. Excellent. So you can see how all of the skills that we've been learning, come into practice, sometimes all together, but at different times in our learning. Reading tables we've covered, and that comes into practice here, as well as what we've been learning today. So we always follow a sequence of learning, and there's a reason for that. So our answer should be 280 kilometres. So from Nottingham to Portsmouth, you'll see the distance there was 175. 175 divided by 5, well, 175 divided by 10, 17.5. And if we double 17.5, we get 35. And then 35 times 8 gives us 280. Southampton to Sheffield. Well, that is on our grid as 195. So 195 divided by 5 gives us 39. So 39 multiplied by 8 gives us 312. And lastly, Portsmouth to Oxford is 80 miles. So 80 miles divided by 5 gives us 16, and 16 times 8 gives us 128. So well done if you managed to get those. Now, we'd love to see your work and all the learning that you've been doing at home. So remember to email us your work at yr6@grange.harrow.sch.uk. Have a great day, Year 6.